Hey guys, glad you could join. Tonight, we're exploring why the ancient Egyptians drank beer for breakfast. And the brutal reality is that it wasn't for the buzz. For the people who built the pyramids, beer was a thick, nutritious liquid bread. It was their food, their safest source of water, and even their paycheck. But before we pour a cup, it's time to get settled in for the night. Find your most comfortable position and let your body sink into your mattress, feeling heavy and relaxed. If these stories help you unwind and drift off, a simple like is a wonderful way to support the channel. Be sure to tell us where you're getting ready for rest from tonight. Ready? Take a slow, deep breath and gently let it go. Good. We are travelling to the sun-baked heart of the New Kingdom, to a village of the most skilled craftsmen in the world. The year is 1250 BC, the reign of the great Rameses. The second is in full swing, and your day begins, as it always does, with beer. The first light of dawn spills over the high, rust-coloured cliffs that wall in your village. The name of your village is Setmat, the place of truth, but it is known to history as Deir el-Medina. You are not a farmer or a common labourer. You are a member of a unique and highly respected community of artisans, the Pardemi, the men of the tomb. Your life's work, and the work of everyone in this village, is the secret and sacred task of cutting and decorating the magnificent tombs of the pharaohs in the nearby Valley of the Kings. You are a master craftsman, a stonecutter, but you do not work for yourself. You are a state employee, and your salary is paid not in coin, but in food. Before you can begin your long hot walk to the royal tombs, you must first go to the village's administrative building to collect your wages. You join a line of your fellow villagers, other stonecutters, plasterers, painters, and scribes. At the head of the line, a scribe sits cross-legged, a papyrus scroll on his lap, meticulously recording the day's distributions. When it is your turn, you are given your daily pay. It is a generous ration, a sign of your value to the pharaoh. You receive several loaves of heavy, dense emmer wheat bread. And, just as importantly, you are given 2 large, sealed pottery jugs filled with beer. This is your henket. This is your fuel, your food, your drink, and your salary, all in one. You carry your wages for the day back to your small stone and mud brick house, where your family is waiting. It is time for breakfast. Your morning meal is a simple but deeply satisfying affair. You and your family gather around a small wooden table in your courtyard. There are no plates, no utensils. Your wife breaks off a piece of the dense bread, and then she unseals one of the beer jugs. The beer that pours out into your simple clay cups is nothing like the light, fizzy, golden liquid of the modern world. It is thick, cloudy, and opaque, almost like a thin porridge or a modern-day smoothie. This is liquid bread, and it is the nutritional bedrock of your entire civilization. You take a long, deep drink. The taste is familiar and comforting. Malty, slightly sweet from the dates used in its brewing, and with a faint, sour tang from the fermentation. It is low in alcohol, probably only 2 or 3%, so it doesn't intoxicate you, but it fills you with a sense of warmth and energy. It is packed with calories, with B vitamins, with proteins and minerals from the barley and emmer wheat from which it is made. It is the ancient Egyptian equivalent of a high-energy breakfast shake. But it is more than just nutrition. It is also safety. The Great Nile River is the source of all life in Egypt, but its water, especially the water from the irrigation canals or from standing pools, can be dangerously contaminated with bacteria and parasites. The process of brewing, however, the boiling of the ingredients and the fermentation by the yeast, kills most of these harmful pathogens. Your daily beer is the cleanest, safest source of hydration available. Drinking beer for breakfast isn't an act of indulgence, it's an act of common sense, a sensible public health measure. While you and the children finish your breakfast, your wife, Merit, is already beginning the long and laborious process of brewing the next batch of beer for your family's own consumption. The state provides your daily ration, but for festivals, for guests, or for the days when the state's supply is not enough, every household must know how to produce its own henkati. And this is primarily the domain of women. Brewing is a form of skilled, essential, and constant domestic labour. The process began a few days ago, when Merit took a portion of the household's barley grain and began the malting process. She soaked the grains in water, then laid them out on a damp cloth, allowing them to sprout. This process of germination activates the enzymes in the grain that will convert its starches into the fermentable sugars needed for brewing. Once the grains had sprouted, she would dry them in the sun and lightly crush them in a stone mortar. Today, her task is to bake the beer bread. Using the prepared malt as well as some unmalted crushed grain, she kneads a special kind of dough. It is very different from the dough for normal bread. It is yeasty and only lightly sweetened with a little date paste. She forms the dough into thick conical loaves and bakes them in her beehive-shaped clay oven. But she does not bake them fully. She bakes them only until the outside is cooked, but the inside is still raw and full of the active yeast that will be needed for fermentation. Once the loaves are cooled, she will crumble them into a large, wide-mouthed clay fermentation vat. She will then pour in water, and perhaps add more mashed dates for extra sugar and flavour. She will cover the vat with a cloth to keep out the insects, and then she will simply wait. The wild yeasts present in the half-baked bread and in the air itself will begin their magic work, consuming the sugars and transforming the gritty watery soup into the thick, nutritious, life-giving beer that sustains your family. It is a slow, multi-day process, a form of domestic alchemy that is as vital to your household as the rising of the sun. With your breakfast consumed, you and the other men of the village prepare for your workday. You gather your tools, your copper chisels, your heavy stone pounders, your wooden mallets. You also gather your lunch, a few loaves of bread, a handful of onions or garlic, and of course another large jug of beer. You then begin the long, hot walk out of the village and up the steep, winding path that leads over the high, rocky cliffs and down into the Valley of the Kings. It is a grueling commute, a daily pilgrimage into the land of the dead. The valley is a desolate, sun-blasted place, a landscape of rock and silence, deliberately chosen for its isolation and its resemblance to the underworld. And here, you and your fellow craftsmen perform your sacred secret work. You are currently working on the tomb of a great pharaoh. Your job as a stonecutter is to hew the long corridors and the great burial chamber out of the living rock of the valley walls. The work is hot, dark, and exhausting. You work deep inside the earth, your only light the smoky, flickering flame of a simple oil lamp. The air is thick with a fine, choking limestone dust. All day long you swing your heavy dolerite pounder, or you carefully chip away at the rock face with your copper chisel, the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of your work echoing in the claustrophobic space. Around midday, you take a break for your lunch. You emerge from the cool darkness of the tomb into the blinding, white-hot glare of the desert sun. You find a patch of shade at the base of a cliff and eat your simple meal. The bread is dry, The onions are sharp, but the beer is cool, and it washes the dust from your throat and revives your weary spirit. It is more than just a drink. It is your fuel. It is the liquid energy that allows you to perform this incredible, back-breaking labour in one of the harshest environments on Earth. In a very real sense, the magnificent, colourful tombs of the pharaohs, the great houses of eternity, are being built on a foundation of simple bread and beer. 1 month, a crisis grips your village. The regular shipment of grain from the state granaries downriver has not arrived. A bureaucratic mix-up, or perhaps a poor harvest in a distant province. You do not know the cause. You only know the effect. The village's supplies are running low. The scribes who manage the rations are forced to cut them. Your daily pay of bread and beer is reduced by half. At first, you and the other workers grumble, but you continue your work. But then, the shipments fail to arrive for a second, and then a third time. Now, the grumbling turns to anger. You are elite craftsmen, performing a sacred duty for the pharaoh himself. You are not slaves. You are free men who have been promised a certain wage for your skilled labour. And the state has broken its contract. Your families are hungry, and you, working all day in the hot, dusty valley, are thirsty and weak from the reduced rations. One morning, a decision is made. You and your fellow workers, the stonecutters, the plasterers, the painters, you all gather in the village plaza, and you lay down your tools. You will not be going to the Valley of the Kings today. Instead, you march as one out of the village, and you begin the long walk to the great mortuary temples on the edge of the Nile Valley, where the high officials of the necropolis have their offices. As you march, you begin to chant, your voices unified in a powerful, angry chorus. We are hungry. Our beer rations are not enough. It is a cry for justice. It is, in fact, the first recorded labour strike in human history. The temple officials are panicked. The work on the pharaoh's tomb, the most important construction project in all of Egypt, has come to a halt. They cannot force you back to work with whips and soldiers. You are not slaves. You are a highly skilled and irreplaceable workforce. They must negotiate. After days of tense back and forth, a promise is made. An emergency shipment of grain will be brought from a nearby temple. Your full rations of bread and beer will be restored. You and your comrades march back to your village, victorious. You have flexed your collective muscle, and you have won. And it all started with a delayed shipment of beer. The strike is over, the rations are restored, and the work on the tomb is complete for the week. It is a day of rest. While beer is the fuel of your working life, it is also the lubricant of your social life. In the evening, you and a few of your fellow craftsmen decide to go to the local tavern, the Shent, for a bit of well-earned leisure. The tavern is not a grand establishment. It is a simple, open-air courtyard in the home of a local woman who brews her own, higher-quality beer for sale. The atmosphere is relaxed and convivial. You sit on a low stool, and the proprietress, a formidable woman named Renanutet, brings you a jug of her finest brew. This is not the standard issue state ration. This is a premium beer, perhaps flavoured with extra honey or exotic spices, because it is unfiltered and full of sediment from the brewing process. You are given a special drinking straw, a long reed with a small perforated clay filter at the end to ensure you get a smooth, grit-free drink. The tavern is a place to relax, to gossip, to escape the pressures of your demanding work and your crowded home. You play a game of Senetti, a popular board game, with the painter who is working on the tomb next to yours. You exchange stories. You complain about your foreman. You share news from the capital. The beer loosens your tongues and warms your spirits. Here, it is not just sustenance, it is a source of pleasure, a way of binding your small, isolated community of artists and craftsmen even closer together. It is a great festival day, perhaps the beautiful festival of the valley, when the god Amun-Ra travels from his great temple at Karnak across the river to visit the mortuary temples of the dead pharaohs. For you and the people of Thebes, it is a time of feasting, of drinking, and of communing with your ancestors. The state, as a sign of the pharaoh's benevolence, provides a massive public feast. Great tables are set up outside the temples, groaning under the weight of thousands of loaves of bread, roasted meats, fruits, and of course, a seemingly endless supply of beer. The entire population of the region gathers. The atmosphere is one of joyous and increasingly loud celebration. Beer is the fuel of the festival. It is a social lubricant, breaking down the barriers between people. It is also a way of achieving a state of religious ecstasy, a way of getting closer to the gods. The great goddess Hathor, the goddess of love, music, and joy, is also known as the Lady of Drunkenness. To drink in her honor is an act of worship. As the day wears on and the beer flows freely, a storyteller gathers a crowd. He begins to recount one of the most famous and beloved stories of your people, a story that explains the very existence of beer and its sacred importance. He tells the tale of the goddess Sekhmet. The great sun god Ra had grown old and humanity began to plot against him. In his rage, Ra sent his daughter, the fierce lioness-headed goddess Sekhmet, to punish mankind. Sekhmet went on a murderous rampage, her fury so great that she threatened to destroy all of humanity. Ra, seeing the devastation, relented, but he could not call off the bloodthirsty goddess. So he devised a clever plan. He ordered thousands of jars of beer to be brewed, and he had the beer dyed a deep red with pomegranate juice and ochre to make it look like human blood. This great red river of beer was poured out in a field where Sekhmet was about to continue her slaughter. The goddess, seeing the blood, lapped it up greedily. She became so drunk that she fell into a deep, peaceful sleep, her rage forgotten. When she awoke, her bloodlust was gone, and humanity was saved. From that day on, festivals of drunkenness were celebrated in her honor to commemorate the day that beer saved the world. You return from the festival to your quiet home in the village. The night is warm, the sky is full of stars, the sounds of celebration still echo from the temples across the river. Your house is peaceful, your children are asleep on their mats. You and your wife, Merit, sit in the small walled courtyard, enjoying the cool night air. She brings out a final small jug of the beer she has brewed, a special sweet beer, saved for the end of the day. You drink in comfortable silence, the silence of a couple who has spent a lifetime together. You look around at your small but comfortable home. You are a respected man, a master of your craft. You have a family, you have a purpose, and your life, the very fabric of your existence, is woven together with this simple, humble, and miraculous drink. It is your food, your water, your wage, your medicine, and your connection to your community and your gods. You look up at the great dark cliffs that surround your village. You know that on the other side of those cliffs, in the Valley of the Kings, the magnificent houses of eternity you are building will last for millions of years. They are a testament to your skill, your labour, and your devotion to your king and your gods. And you know, with a deep and certain satisfaction, that every single stone of those great tombs was cut, and every single beautiful painting was made by men who were sustained and rewarded by the simple, life-giving power of beer. For the people of ancient Egypt, beer was not a frivolous indulgence. It was the staff of life, the cornerstone of their diet, and the foundation of their economy. It was a gift from the gods that was safer than water, more nutritious than bread, and potent enough to save humanity from a vengeful goddess. It was the liquid currency that paid for the construction of the greatest monuments the world has ever known, and the humble daily fuel of the civilization that built them. The story of the pharaohs, in many ways, was a story that floated on a deep, slow, and life-sustaining river of beer. When we think of the Spartans, we usually picture the movie 300, ripped, heroic warriors making witty one-liners before charging into glorious battle. It's an incredibly powerful image of the ultimate soldier. But the Hollywood version conveniently skips over the part where that perfect warrior was forged in a system of unimaginable cruelty, state-sponsored abuse, and ritualized violence that began not on the battlefield, but on the day he was born. You are about to be born into the ancient city of Sparta, in the valley of the Eurotas River. But this will not be a celebration of new life. It will be an inspection. Your first test in a life that will be nothing but tests. And you have to pass it, or you won't live to see the next day. The first sensation you have is not the warmth of a mother's embrace, but the cold mountain air on your skin. You are only moments old, still covered in the blood and fluid of your own birth. And you have already been taken from your mother. You are not a son yet, not a person. You are potential property of the state of Lacedaemon, and your value must be assessed. You are carried not to a nursery, but to a place called the Lesher, a sort of community meeting place. Here the elders of your tribe, the Jerusia, are waiting. They are old men, their faces like wrinkled leather, their eyes missing the sentimentality of grandfathers. They are not here to coo over you. They are here to judge you. Your father stands by, his face a mask of stoicism, but you can feel the tension radiating from him. He presents you to the elders as one would present a new foal or a puppy for inspection. They take you, their calloused hands turning you over, examining every inch of your tiny, fragile body. They are looking for imperfections, a crooked limb, a misshapen head, a weak cry, any sign that you are not physically perfect. In Sparta, there is no room for weakness. A disabled child cannot grow into a soldier, and a soldier is the only thing a Spartan male is permitted to be. A boy who cannot fight is seen as a useless drain on the state's precious resources. They test your limbs, they look at your form, they listen to your cries. The silence in the room is heavy, broken only by your own wails against the cold. Your fate hangs in this delicate balance. If they find you worthy, if they deem you fit to one day carry a shield for Sparta, they will nod, and you will be returned to your father. You will be allowed to live. But if they find any fault, any defect, however small, their verdict is swift and final. You are to be discarded. You would be taken to a deep, cavernous chasm on the slopes of Mount Tagatos, a place they call the Apothete, the place of rejection. There you would be left exposed to the elements or the wild animals, an offering to the harsh landscape that forged your people. You don't know any of this, of course. You're just a baby, cold and crying in the hands of strangers. But your life's first and most important battle is being fought for you. The elders exchange a look. They pass you back to your father. You have been approved. You have been deemed worthy of life. Your training is about to begin, and you are less than a day old. You passed your first inspection. You have been granted the privilege of life. You are returned to your mother's arms. But the reprieve is only temporary. The next 7 years of your life are not filled with the warmth and affection you might imagine. You are in a Spartan household, and a Spartan mother's primary duty is not to nurture her child's spirit, but to forge his resilience. She is the first instructor in your lifelong military training. Her love is tough, severe, and aimed at a single purpose: eradicating weakness from your character before the state takes over. There is no coddling. If you fall and scrape your knee, you are not swept up and comforted. You are told to be silent. Crying is a display of weakness, and it is not tolerated. Your food is plain, simple, and never abundant. You are taught to be content with little, to never complain of hunger or discomfort. Your mother and the other women of the household, perhaps a helot nurse, speak to you in short, direct sentences. There is no baby talk, no singing of gentle lullabies. They are conditioning you for a life where emotion is a liability. They use exposure as a tool. You are bathed in cold water from the river, not warm water by the hearth, to accustom your body to shocks. You are left alone in rooms as darkness falls, to teach you that fear of the dark is an indulgence you cannot afford. While other Greek children might play with toys and listen to myths of gods and heroes, your games are rougher. They are about strength, about enduring pain. Your father will watch you and your brothers wrestle, his face impassive, offering no praise for a victory, only a stern nod for a display of toughness. You are being systematically desensitized. The goal is to create a child who is fearless, disciplined, and utterly obedient. You are essentially being raised not as a child, but as a high-value animal being prepared for a very specific and very violent purpose. It's a strange and cold upbringing. You see your father, but he is a distant figure. He spends most of his time with the men of his mess hall, his sicilian. The state demands his loyalty first, his family a distant second. You learn from a very early age that your primary relationship is not with your parents, but with Sparta itself. And you know, with the certainty that a child has for the rising of the sun, that this is all temporary. Your 7th birthday looms not as a day of celebration, but as a day of separation. It is the day you will be taken from your family for good. The day you will be handed over to the state. The day you enter that infamous agoge. Every lesson in stoicism, every cold bath, every lonely night is a preparation for that moment. Your mother is not raising a son, she is preparing a recruit, and soon her job will be done. The day you turn 7 arrives with a grim finality. There is no party, there are no gifts. There is only a quiet, somber departure. Your mother hands you over to an official, a paidonomos, a sort of state-appointed warden responsible for all the boys in your age group. You don't look back. You have been trained not to. This is the moment your life truly begins, and it begins by ending your childhood. You are marched to the barracks, a stark, functional building that will be your home for the next 13 years. Your life as an individual is over. You are now part of a herd, an agala. The first thing they do is strip you of your identity. Your long hair, a mark of pride for a freeborn Greek, is shaved to the scalp. Your clothes are taken, replaced with a single coarse crimson-dyed tunic called a phoinikes. This will be your only garment for winter and for summer. You are not given shoes. You will go barefoot from this day forward, hardening your feet for the rugged terrain of Laconia. The shock is immediate. The cold stone floor bites at your bare soles. The rough fabric of the tunic scratches your skin. You are surrounded by other boys, all with the same shaved heads, the the same terrified look in their eyes. There is no gentle orientation period. You are thrown into the pack and an immediate brutal hierarchy is established. Fights break out instantly. The older boys, the irons, watch with cold amusement. This is part of the design. They want to see who is strong, who is aggressive, and who is weak. Weakness is pounced upon. The boy who cries, the boy who hesitates, is immediately targeted. You learn your first lesson within minutes. You are either a predator or prey. You fight. You get a bloody nose and a split lip, but you fight back with a desperate ferocity. You learn that pain is temporary, but the shame of being seen as a coward is permanent. Your days are now ruthlessly regimented. You are woken before dawn. The training is relentless. Running, jumping, wrestling. You learn to throw the javelin and the discus. The instructors are not gentle teachers. They are taskmasters, and they carry switches, which they use liberally for any sign of laziness or disobedience. Their education is purely practical. You are taught to read and write, but only enough to understand military orders. You are taught music and dance, but only war songs and marching formations. There is no philosophy, no art for art's sake. Anything that does not contribute to the creation of a perfect soldier is deemed frivolous and is ruthlessly excised. You are being hollowed out and rebuilt into a weapon. The boy who left his mother's home this morning is already gone. In his place is a recruit, a number, a cog in the great red machine of the Spartan army. The years between 7 and 12 are a blur of hardship, deliberately engineered to break you down and remold you. The core principle of your existence is deprivation. Everything is designed to make you tough, to strip away any notion of comfort, and to make you accustomed to a life of constant grinding difficulty. Your home, the barracks, is a cold and unforgiving place. Your bed is the floor. In the summer, this is merely uncomfortable. In the winter, the cold from the stones seeps into your bones. A constant aching chill that sleep barely manages to keep at bay. When you are a little older, you are granted the luxury of making your own bed. This involves being marched to the banks of the Eurotas River, where you are to snap reeds with your bare hands. No knives are permitted. You gather armfuls of these sharp-edged plants, your hands getting cut and scratched, and carry them back to the barracks. This pile of reeds is your mattress. It is lumpy. It is damp, and it does little to soften the hard floor, but it is yours. It is a lesson in self-sufficiency and a constant reminder that comfort is not something to be expected. Food is another weapon used against you. You are always hungry. The rations provided are intentionally insufficient to support your growing, constantly exercising body. The staple of your diet is a foul-tasting black broth, a pork blood soup that disgusts visitors from other Greek cities. But for you, it is sustenance. This chronic hunger serves two purposes. First, it is believed that it will make you grow taller and leaner, more fit for the life of a warrior. Second, and more importantly, it is meant to encourage a different kind of skill: thievery. Your physical training is brutal and ceaseless. Day after day, you are pushed to your absolute limit. You wrestle with the other boys in sandpits under the scorching sun, the contests often ending in bruises and bloody noses. You run for miles over rocky, uneven ground on your tough, bare feet. You practice throwing the javelin until your arm feels like it will fall off. Everything is a competition. Every activity is designed to rank you against your peers. Who is the fastest? Who is the strongest? Who is the most enduring? There are no participation awards in the agoge. There is only the winner and everyone else. The constant pressure creates intense rivalries, but also a fierce, unspoken bond with the boys who suffer alongside you. You are being systematically hardened, your body turned into a weapon and your spirit into tempered steel. Pain becomes your constant companion, a familiar ache in your muscles and a sting on your skin from the instructor's switch. You learn to ignore it. You learn to welcome it. It is proof that you are still here, still surviving. As your body is being hardened by deprivation and constant physical exertion, your mind is being sharpened by a different kind of training. You are taught that morality, as other Greeks understand it, is a luxury. The only true virtues are those that serve the state. And one of the most important skills you must learn is how to be cunning, how to be invisible, and how to take what you need. You are taught to steal. It is not just permitted. It is a required part of your curriculum. But there is one very, very important rule. Do not get caught. The logic is simple and ruthless. A soldier must know how to forage, to live off the land, to acquire supplies when none are given. Stealing teaches you stealth, audacity, and resourcefulness. If you successfully steal a loaf of bread from the common mess hall or a clutch of eggs from a nearby helot farm and get away with it, you are praised for your skill. You get to eat, satisfying the gnawing hunger that is your constant companion. But if you are caught, if a helot farmer grabs you or an older boy spots you, the punishment is severe. You are not punished for the act of stealing. You are punished for your incompetence, for your clumsiness in getting caught, and the punishment is a brutal public whipping. So you learn. Hunger is a powerful motivator. At night, you and a few other boys might sneak out of the barracks, moving like shadows through the Spartan countryside. Every snapping twig, every barking dog sends a jolt of pure terror through you. You creep towards the fields, where the helots, Sparta's vast population of state-owned serfs, live and work. They are your primary targets. You watch a small farmhouse for hours, learning the habits of the family inside. You wait for the perfect moment of inattention to slip into their garden and snatch a few vegetables, or to unlatch a poorly secured chicken coop. Your heart hammers against your ribs, the thrill of the hunt mixed with the paralyzing fear of discovery. Sometimes you succeed. You return to the barracks with your prize, which you share with your comrades in a secret, hurried feast. The taste of a stolen piece of cheese is the most delicious thing you have ever experienced. But sometimes you fail. An arm shoots out of the darkness and grabs you. You are dragged back to the barracks, your stolen goods presented as evidence of your failure. You are tied to a post, and the whip falls. The leather bites into your back again and again, but you do not cry out. You have learned that lesson well. You bite your lip until it bleeds, focusing on the anger and the shame. You failed the test. Next time, you will be smarter. You will be quieter. You will be better. This is how Sparta teaches you to survive. Of all the brutal rituals and tests of endurance that define your life in the Agorge, none is more famous or more terrifying than the annual festival of Artemis Orthia. On the surface, it is a religious ceremony dedicated to an ancient goddess. In reality, it is a public spectacle of institutionalized sadism, and it is the ultimate test of your training in pain tolerance. The entire city gathers at the sanctuary of Artemis. This includes your parents, who have come not to worship, but to watch you and the other boys undergo an unimaginable ordeal. The contest is disarmingly simple. It is called the diamastagosis, which literally means the severe flogging. A cheese is placed on the altar of the goddess. Your goal is to run up and snatch it. The only thing standing in your way are older youths and men armed with savage whips. As you approach the altar, the whips rain down on you. They lash across your back, your legs, your chest. The pain is immediate, searing, and overwhelming. The whips are meant to draw blood, to tear the skin from your body. But you cannot scream. You cannot cry out. You must remain silent, your face a mask of grim determination, even as your back is flayed open. The crowd cheers. This is not a somber event. It is a form of popular entertainment. You can hear your father's voice among the others, shouting encouragement, not for you to succeed in getting the cheese, but for you to endure the whipping with courage. He is not horrified by the sight of his son being brutalized. He is proud. He is watching you prove that you are a true Spartan. To cry out would bring shame not just upon you, but upon your entire family, and that is a fate worse than any physical pain. You see boys fall, collapsing from the pain and blood loss. Some of them die, right there at the altar. Their deaths are not mourned. They are seen as glorious, a testament to their spirit. They died proving their Spartan virtue. The contest continues, boy after boy running into the storm of lashes. The ground around the altar grows dark and slick with blood. The air is thick with the smell of sweat and iron. It is a scene from a nightmare, a ritual of organized violence sanctioned by religion and civic pride. This is more than just a test of physical endurance. It is a profound psychological conditioning. It teaches you to divorce your mind from the pain of your body. It reinforces the idea that your personal suffering is meaningless compared to your public reputation for courage. It is the crucible in which the Spartan warrior's legendary indifference to pain is forged. If you can survive this, you can survive anything a battlefield can throw at you. You might not get the cheese, but if you walk away, bloody but silent, you have won. As you move into your late teens, the dynamics of your life in the Agoge begin to shift. You are no longer just a victim of the system. You are becoming an enforcer. Around the age of 20, you graduate to the rank of Iron. You are now a prefect, given authority over a group of the younger boys, the very same boys who are enduring the hardships you just survived. It is now your duty to discipline them, to train them, and to mete out the same harsh punishments that were once inflicted upon you. You are the one with the switch. You are the one who watches them fight, who oversees their meager rations, who instills in them the same terror and respect for authority that you were taught. This is a critical phase of your development. It teaches you leadership, command, and the responsibility of maintaining the brutal standards of the Agoge. You are perpetuating the cycle of abuse that created you. At the same time, you face your own final and most important social test, gaining entry into a secession. This is one of the common mess halls where all adult Spartan male citizens eat their evening meal. It is the core of Spartan society. Your membership in one of these groups is not automatic. It is, in essence, your final exam for citizenship. The process is a stark pass-fail vote. You must be nominated by an existing member of a mess, a group of about 15 men. Then every single member of that mess must vote for your acceptance. The vote is conducted in secret. Each man takes a piece of bread, and as he passes a container, he drops it in. If he approves of you, he simply drops the bread. If he wishes to blackball you, he squeezes it flat in his fist first. Even one single flattened piece of bread, one single veto, is enough to deny you entry. And if you are denied, your life is effectively over. You are stripped of your full citizenship, becoming an outcast, a hypermian, a lesser. All your years of suffering in the Agoge will have been for nothing. The pressure is immense. You must have proven yourself not just a capable warrior, but also a good comrade. You must be well liked, respected, and deemed worthy. Your entire future hinges on the opinion of these 15 men. If you are accepted, you are now part of a brotherhood that will last for the rest of your life. You will contribute a share of your produce from your allotted land to the mess every month. And you will eat with these men every single night, sharing the infamous Spartan black broth, a hideous concoction of pork, salt, vinegar, and pig's blood, and the coarse barley bread that is the staple of your diet. You have made it. You are on the cusp of becoming a homoios, an equal. But first, there may be one final, darker test. For a select few of the most promising, most ruthless young men emerging from the agoge, there is one final, clandestine stage of training. It is not part of the official curriculum. It is a secret institution, spoken of only in whispers. It is the Cryptaya, the secret service. If you are chosen for this, you are marked as a potential future leader of Sparta. It is a sign of great honor, but it is an honor that requires you to become a monster. You are summoned by a magistrate. You are not given a shield or a spear. You are given a single dagger and a meager supply of food. Your orders are simple. You are to be sent out into the Spartan countryside alone. You are to hide during the day, sleeping in the woods and hills, completely invisible. You must live off the land, using all the skills of stealth and theft you have learned. But your true mission begins at night. Under the cover of darkness, you are to move through the lands worked by the Helots, and you are to kill them. This is not random violence. It is a calculated campaign of state-sponsored terrorism. The Helots, the original inhabitants of this land, were conquered by the Spartans centuries ago. They are not slaves owned by individuals. They are serfs owned by the state. And they outnumber the Spartan citizens by at least 7-1. The constant, gnawing fear at the heart of Spartan society is the fear of a Helot uprising. The Cryptaya is the instrument designed to prevent that. Your job is to assassinate any Helot who shows signs of leadership, who is too strong, too intelligent, or too defiant. You are to be a spectre of death, a ghost in the night, reminding the Helot population of the terrifying power of the Spartan state. Imagine the psychological toll. You are alone, in the dark, armed only with a knife. You are both hunter and hunted. The Helots are not soldiers, but many of them are strong, desperate men who would kill you without a second thought if they found you. You live in a state of constant paranoia. During the day, you lie hidden in a thicket, watching a Helot village, identifying your target. You see him working in the fields. You see him with his family. You study his routines, and at night you creep towards his home. Your heart pounds in the silence of the countryside. You slip through a window or an unlocked door. The act itself is quick, brutal, and silent. You kill a man in his sleep, a man whose only crime was to appear too proud, and then you melt back into the darkness. This is the final brutal lesson of your Spartan education. It teaches you to kill without hesitation, without remorse, and without a fair fight. It strips away the last vestiges of conventional morality. It turns you into a predator, a tool of state-sanctioned murder. When you return from your time in the Cryptaya, you are changed. You have looked into the abyss, and you have not flinched. You are now truly ready to be a Spartan. At the age of 30, your formal education finally comes to an end. You have survived it all. The inspection at birth, the cold upbringing, the brutal years in the Bagoge, the ritual floggings, the trial of the Secession, and perhaps even the shadowy horror of the Cryptaya. You have endured 23 years of ceaseless, systematic conditioning. And now you graduate. You are granted full citizenship. You are a homoios, a peer, an equal. This is the title you have been fighting for your entire life. You are now permitted to live in your own home with your wife, a woman you were likely paired with years ago but have barely seen. You are a father to children who are practically strangers to you, but your primary obligation remains to the state. Every evening you must still report to your mess hall to eat with your brothers in arms. Your life is still not your own. You are, and always will be, a soldier. You are the final product, a perfect warrior devoid of fear, indifferent to pain and comfort, unconditionally obedient to orders. You are a component part of the most feared and respected military machine in the Hellenic world, the Spartan phalanx. When you stand in formation with your comrades, shield locked with shield, spear points bristling, you are part of something greater than yourself. You feel an unbreakable bond with the men to your left and right. They are the men whose blood has mingled with yours on the floor of the gymnasium, whose cries you heard in the dark of the barracks. You are a single terrifying organism of bronze, wood, and iron. You are the wall that protects Sparta. You are the reason your city-state, despite its tiny number of citizens, dominates the entire Peloponnese. But as you stand there, a perfect soldier at the peak of your physical abilities, what has been the cost? You have no inner life. You have been taught that philosophy is useless, that art is a distraction, that personal ambition is a threat to the state. Your vocabulary is famously short and direct, laconic, because lengthy discussion is seen as a sign of weakness. Your emotional range has been deliberately stunted. You are a stranger to tenderness and compassion. Your humanity has been systematically stripped away, burned out of you in the crucible of the Agagi, leaving only the hard, unyielding core of a warrior. You are the great triumph of the Spartan system, and you are its greatest tragedy. You are a shield of Sparta, and nothing more. Hey guys, when we think of a medieval court, we picture kings, queens, and knights in shining armour, and somewhere in the corner there's the Jester, a happy-go-lucky clown in a colourful costume, tumbling around and telling silly jokes. It's a charming but completely misleading image. The brutal reality is that the court jester, or fool, had one of the most dangerous and psychologically demanding jobs in the entire kingdom. He was a professional satirist, a political commentator, and a therapist to the king, who had to wrap his sharp intelligence in a cloak of foolishness. And he lived on a razor's edge, where one bad joke could be the difference between a laugh and a lash. We are travelling to a land of stone castles and simmering intrigue. The year is 1350. The court of the King of England is a viper's nest of ambition and power, and you are the only man in the kingdom who is paid to be dishonest about his own intelligence. You wake not to the sound of a trumpet, but to the gentle clinking of the small brass bells on the cap hanging by your bed. Your chamber is a small, solitary room in a quiet corner of the royal castle, not quite with the nobles, but certainly not with the common servants. It is a physical representation of your place in this world, on the inside, but always on the fringe. Your first thought of the day is not about your own needs. It is a single, critical question. What is the king's mood? Your success, your comfort, and your continued survival depend entirely on your ability to accurately read the emotional weather of the most powerful and most volatile man in the land. You rise and begin the ritual of getting dressed. Your clothing is not a matter of personal taste. It is your uniform, your shield, and your license. You pull on your motley, the brightly coloured, mismatched tunic and hose that immediately mark you as the fool. It is a costume of deliberate absurdity, a visual signal that you exist outside the strict, sombre dress codes of the court. You place the cap on your head, the floppy, three-pointed hat, often made to look like a rooster's comb or cock's comb. That is the very symbol of your office. Finally, you take up your marotte. It is a small scepter, a mock symbol of power, with a head carved in your own likeness at the top. This is your most important tool. When you speak through it, you are not speaking as yourself. You are speaking as the fool. It is a thin but crucial layer of plausible deniability. You are not just a man named Will. You are Feste, or Touchstone, or whatever fool's name you have been given. You are a character. And it is this character that gives you the almost unique power to speak the truth in a world built on flattery and lies. The king has risen and is holding his morning audience in the great hall. You slip into the vast, drafty chamber, your bells announcing your presence with a gentle, cheerful jingle that is at odds with the tense atmosphere of the room. The hall is a theatre of power. The king sits on his great carved wooden throne, listening with a bored expression as a series of petitioners and nobles come before him. You do not perform. Not yet. Your first job of the day is to observe. You are the king's social barometer, his court's resident anthropologist. You find a spot near the edge of the dais, seemingly distracted, playing with your marotte. But your eyes miss nothing. You watch the subtle body language of the great lords as they interact with each other. You see the barely concealed sneer on the face of the Duke of Lancaster as the Earl of March speaks. You note the nervous sweat on the brow of a bishop who is trying to explain a shortfall in his accounts. You listen to the whispers of the courtiers, the gossip of the ladies-in-waiting. You are gathering information, taking the emotional and political temperature of the court. This is the raw material of your art. A joke is not just a joke in your profession. A well-aimed jest must be built upon a foundation of truth. You must know who is in favour and who is out, who is ambitious, who is in debt, who is having an affair. Your wit is not just for entertainment. It is a weapon, a tool and a mirror that you will hold up to the court later in the day. To be a successful fool, you must first be the most observant and astute man in the entire kingdom. The morning audience ends, and the king sweeps into a meeting with his war council. An hour later, he emerges, his face a thundercloud. A campaign in France is going poorly, and the council is demanding a new, unpopular tax to fund it. The great hall, which had been buzzing with conversation, falls into a tense, fearful silence. The nobles and courtiers avert their eyes, trying to make themselves as small as possible. No one wants to be the target of the king's foul temper. No one, that is, except you. This is your moment. This is what you are paid for. You skip into the centre of the hall, juggling 3 brightly coloured balls. The king glares at you. Have you nothing better to do than play with toys, fool? He growls. You let the balls drop and look at him with an expression of wide-eyed innocence. Oh, my lord, you say, your voice full of mock sympathy. I was merely practising for the new royal business. It is called juggling the accounts of the kingdom. It is a marvellous trick, where the coins of the poor vanish into the air and appear in the pockets of the lords. A deathly silence hangs in the hall. You have just, in the guise of a silly joke, spoken a dangerous political truth. You have criticised the new tax. You have pointed out the greed of the nobles. You have crossed a line that would mean the dungeon, or the headsman's axe for any other man. You hold your breath, your heart pounding. The king stares at you, his eyes narrowed. For a moment, you think you have gone too far. Then, a slow smile spreads across his face, and he lets out a sudden barking laugh. The tension in the room breaks. The courtiers join in, their laughter a wave of palpable relief. You have done it. You have used your fool's license to lance the boil of the king's anger. You have survived. For today. You are a licensed or artificial fool. Your foolishness is a performance, a highly skilled art. But there is another fool at court, a man who occupies a different and in some ways more tragic position. He is a natural fool, a young man named John, who was born with a developmental disability. He is kept by the court as a kind of human pet, a mascot whose simple, unfiltered utterances are seen by some as a form of innocent or even divine wisdom. Your relationship with him is a complex and uncomfortable one. You are, in a sense, his keeper. You are often paired with him during feasts and entertainments. Your sharp, practiced wit a counterpart to his simple, unpredictable pronouncements. You have a genuine affection for him. He is one of the few people in the court who is entirely without malice or ambition. You protect him from the casual cruelty of the young squires, who see him as a target for their pranks. But you also feel a strange and unsettling professional jealousy. The laughter John gets is effortless. He does not have to spend hours crafting the perfect, multi-layered jest. He simply has to be himself. And there is a part of you that envies his lack of awareness. He does not feel the constant gnawing fear that you do. He does not understand the danger he is in, the fact that his life and comfort depend entirely on the continued amusement and affection of the king. You look at him, playing happily with a puppy in the corner of the hall, and you see a distorted mirror of yourself. You are both licensed jesters, men who are allowed to exist outside the normal rules. But your license is earned through intelligence and wit. His is granted by what the court perceives as a lack of it. It is a grim and unsettling reminder of the precarious nature of your own position. Your unique position, being both intimate with the court and utterly outside its power structure, makes you a very useful man. You are seen as harmless, a silly, trivial figure. And so, people speak freely around you. You are the invisible man at the heart of the kingdom. You hear the gossip of the kitchen maids, the grumbling of the men-at-arms, the secret complaints of the nobles. And this makes you a valuable source of information. Later that day, the king's spy master, a quiet, spider-like man named Thomas, finds you in a secluded corner of the castle gardens. He does not waste time with pleasantries. He wants to know what you have heard. Is there dissent among the London merchants about the new tax? Is the French ambassador secretly meeting with the Duke of Lancaster? He knows that you, the fool, have access to a level of ground truth intelligence that his own network of formal spies can never get. This is a dangerous game. You are now a pawn in the great shadowy chess match of court politics. To be the spy master's friend is a form of protection, but it also means you have enemies you do not even know about. You share what you have heard, a piece of gossip here, an overheard conversation there. You are careful not to betray any real confidences, but you give him enough to keep him happy, to keep him on your side. You are a jester. Your job is to make people laugh, but you learn quickly that information is a currency, just as valuable as gold, and in a world of shifting alliances and sudden betrayals, a well-placed piece of information, like a well-placed joke, can be a tool of survival. You are not just the court's comedian. You are its secret, unofficial newspaper. In the evening, a great feast is held in the main hall to honour a visiting delegation of German knights. This is your main stage. This is where you truly earn your keep. The hall is a scene of organised gluttony and barely controlled chaos. The air is thick with the smell of roasted meat, spilled wine, and hundreds of unwashed bodies. Hounds fight for scraps under the long trestle tables. Minstrels play in a gallery above the hall. And you, the fool, have the floor. Your job is to be the master of ceremonies, the court's one-man variety show. You tumble and perform acrobatic tricks. You juggle knives, a skill that keeps the audience both amused and slightly nervous. You sing bawdy songs that poke fun at the clergy, a subject that is always popular with the knights, and you engage in the high art of the insult. You perform a flyting, a verbal jousting match with one of the German knights, a huge, humorless man who is famous for his pride. You and the knight trade elaborate, rhyming insults, much to the delight of the drunken audience. You mock his ridiculously large moustache. He mocks your skinny legs. It is a performance of wit, a way to display your verbal dexterity, but it is also a delicate and dangerous dance. You must be insulting, but not so insulting that you provoke a real international incident. You must be cleverer than the knight, but you must allow him to save face. It is a public relations exercise, disguised as entertainment. You end your performance with a series of riddles, your wit and wordplay a refreshing counterpoint to the drunken boasting of the knights. The king is pleased. He tosses you a silver coin, a bonus for a good night's work. You have successfully navigated the treacherous waters of the royal feast. You have entertained, you have insulted, you have flattered, and you have survived. Late that night, long after the drunken lords have been helped to their beds, you are summoned. A quiet knock on your door reveals a royal page. The king wishes to see you. You are led not to the great hall, but to the king's private solar, his personal chambers. The mood here is entirely different. The great public performance of kingship is over. The heavy crown sits on a nearby table. The king is slumped in a large fur-lined chair, staring into the embers of the fire. He is not a king now. He is just a man. A tired, lonely, and deeply paranoid man. And here your role changes once more. You are not the fool. You are not the jester. You are the king's only true friend. You are the only person in the entire kingdom with whom he can be completely and safely himself. He does not have to worry that you are trying to flatter him for political gain. He does not have to worry that you will use his moment of weakness against him. Your licensed foolishness gives you a strange kind of purity. He speaks to you of his fears, of the treachery of his cousins, of the crushing cost of the war in France, of his doubts about his own son's abilities. He asks for your opinion, and you give it to him, not in the form of a joke or a riddle, but as simple, honest, and unvarnished counsel. You are his psychologist, his confessor, his most trusted advisor. This is the strangest and most secret part of your job. The king, who commands the absolute obedience of thousands of knights and lords, relies on the wisdom of his fool. It is in these quiet late-night conversations that you wield more power than any duke or bishop. As you sit with the king, listening to the burdens of his crown, you are reminded of a story you heard from a travelling minstrel, a story about a jester in the court of a powerful French duke. This jester, a man famous for his sharp tongue, had made a series of jokes about the duke's new and very young wife. The jokes were clever, and they were true, and the court loved them. The duke, however, did not. One evening the jester was called before the duke. He was not to be executed. The duke, in his mercy, gave the Jester a choice of how he would die. The Jester, thinking quickly, said, "My lord, I choose to die of old age." The Duke, amused by this final flash of wit, spared his life. But he did not let the insult go unpunished. The Jester was not whipped. He was not put in the dungeon. Instead, the Duke simply banished him from the court and forbade anyone, on pain of death, from ever laughing at his jokes again. The Jester, stripped of his audience and his purpose, wandered from town to town, a man whose wit was now a useless currency. He died, a few years later, a poor and broken man. You think of this story often. It is a chilling reminder of the fragility of your position. The king's laughter is the source of your power, your protection, your very life. But it is a gift that can be withdrawn in an instant. The line between being the court's favourite comedian and being a reviled outcast is a thin and very blurry one. Your life is a constant performance on a tightrope, and the fall is a long, long way down. You finally return to your own small chamber, the last echoes of the king's troubled thoughts still swirling in your mind. You take off the motley, the cap, the bells. The costume feels heavy now, soaked with the weight of the day's performances. You are no longer the fool. You are just Will, a man alone in a quiet room. You are exhausted. It is not the physical exhaustion of a knight after a battle, or a peasant after a day in the fields. It is a deep mental and emotional exhaustion, the fatigue of a man who has spent the entire day juggling the moods of a king, the politics of a court, and the constant gnawing fear of his own precarious existence. You have been a comedian, a social critic, a spy, a psychologist, and a political advisor, all in the space of a single day. You have had to be the funniest man in the room, and also the wisest. You have had to speak the truth, but always at a slant, wrapped in the protective layers of a joke or a riddle. You have walked the razor's edge of wit and danger, and you have made it through another day. The medieval court jester was not a simple entertainer. He was a complex and vital part of the delicate ecosystem of the royal court. He was a licensed truth-teller in a world that was built on a foundation of rigid hierarchy and dangerous flattery. He was an artist, a social commentator, and a keen political analyst who had to be smarter, quicker, and braver than almost any other man in the kingdom. He lived on the knife's edge, where the difference between a celebrated jest and a fatal insult was often nothing more than the unpredictable whim of the king, proving that in the house of power, the most dangerous thing in the world is telling the truth, and the second most dangerous is telling a joke. Hey guys, we've all seen it. That iconic image of a colossal wave, its foamy claws about to crash down on 3 tiny boats, with Mount Fuji serene in the background. Hokusai's Great Wave is one of the most famous pieces of art in the world. We imagine a solitary genius, alone in his studio, creating a timeless masterpiece. But the brutal reality is that this masterpiece wasn't really considered art at all. It was a commercial product, churned out by a frantic assembly line process, and sold on the streets of old Japan for about the same price as a bowl of noodles. We are about to travel back to the bustling, crowded and vibrant city of Edo, Japan, in the early 1830s. You are an artist, but you're about to discover that in the floating world, an artist is just the first, and perhaps least important, cog in a beautiful and brutal machine. Your story begins not in a quiet, contemplative studio, but in the noisy, chaotic storefront of one of Edo's most powerful publishers. The year is 1831. The city, which will one day be called Tokyo, is a sprawling metropolis of over 1 million people, and they are hungry for entertainment. They crave images of their world, the Ukiyo-e, or floating world. Pictures of famous kabuki actors, beautiful courtesans from the Yoshiwara pleasure district, scenes from history, and landscapes of their beloved country. And the publisher, a shrewd businessman named Nishimuraya Yohachi, is more than happy to supply this demand. You are here because you need work, and he is the one who provides it. His shop is a whirlwind of activity. It opens directly onto the street, and customers are constantly coming and going, flipping through stacks of freshly printed woodblock prints. The air is thick with the smells of paper, ink, and the sweet scent of the paste used in the printing process. Apprentices scurry back and forth, carrying stacks of prints and finished books. You are an artist, an eishi. But in this world, you are a freelance designer, and the publisher is your client, your boss, and your patron, all rolled into one. He holds all the power. He owns the woodblocks, he pays the craftsman, and he takes all the financial risk, and he knows exactly what sells. You sit on a tatami mat before him, sipping the tea he's offered, but your stomach is tight with anxiety. You have brought him some sketches, some new ideas for a series of prints. He glances at them with a practiced, dismissive eye. Landscapes? Again? He grumbles. Hokusai is doing landscapes. People are getting tired of them. We need something new. Something profitable. He taps a fan against his palm. The public wants beauty. The courtesan Takao of the Miura house has a new style of kimono, and Ichikawa Danjuro VII is starring in a new play at the Nakamura-za Theatre. That's what people want to see. Give me actors. Give me beautiful women. Use bright colours. Make them fashionable. There is no discussion of your artistic vision. There is no talk of self-expression. This is a commercial transaction. He is commissioning a product line, and you are the designer. He dictates the subject matter, the general tone, and even the budget, which will determine how many colours, and therefore how many woodblocks, can be used. You bow your head in agreement. You need the money. An artist who doesn't sell prints doesn't eat. You leave the bustling shop with your new assignment. You are to design a series of prints of the most famous beauties of the city. Your own ideas are tucked away for another day. You have a product to design. You make your way through the crowded streets of Edo, back to the small room you rent in a tenement building. This is your studio. It's not a grand, sun-drenched space. It's a cramped, simple room with tatami mats on the floor and paper screens for walls. The sounds of the city, the call of street vendors, the clatter of wooden sandals, the laughter from a nearby noodle shop, are your constant companions. But here, in this small space, is where the magic begins. This is the one part of the long process that is truly yours. You are the Ishi, the painter, the one who brings the image to life from nothing. You sit at a low wooden desk. Your tools are simple but elegant. A black inkstick, which you grind with a bit of water on a slate inkstone until it reaches the perfect consistency. A collection of fine brushes made from animal hair, and a stack of impossibly thin translucent washi paper. The publisher wants pictures of beautiful women, so that is what you will draw. But you can still infuse it with your own skill, your own unique line. You pick up your brush. The ink is a deep liquid black. You touch the brush to the paper, and the line flows from your hand. You are not just drawing a picture, you are creating a blueprint. This initial drawing, the Hanshita-e, will be the master guide for the entire process. Every line you draw must be clear, confident, and decisive. You have to think not like a painter, but like a carver. A wishy-washy, sketchy line cannot be carved. A line that is too thin will break the wood. A line that is too thick will look clumsy. You must draw with the ghost of the carver's knife guiding your hand. You draw the elegant curve of a woman's neck, the intricate pattern of her kimono, the delicate strands of her elaborate hairstyle. You work for hours, your focus absolute, the world outside your paper screens fading away. When the final ink drawing is complete, it is a masterpiece of black and white line work. It is elegant, balanced, and alive. But your work is not done. You now have to create color notations for the printer. On a separate sheet of paper, or sometimes on an overlay, you indicate which areas should be red, which blue, which yellow. You might even suggest special effects, like embossing or shimmering mica dust. You take the finished design back to the publisher. He looks it over, his critical eye missing nothing. He grunts in approval. It is good. It will sell. But before the carving can begin, your beautiful drawing must face its most dreaded critic, the government censor. Before your design can be transformed into a woodblock print, it must pass through a crucial and nerve-wracking checkpoint. The publisher takes your finished drawing and submits it to the official censors of the Tokugawa shogunate. This is not a matter of artistic critique. It is a matter of state control. The government keeps a tight rein on the publishing industry, viewing it as a potential source of social unrest and moral decay. Everything, from books to single sheet prints, must be approved. Two stern-faced censors, always working in tandem, will scrutinize your work for any hint of trouble. What are they looking for? Anything and everything. They are hunting for political satire, which is strictly forbidden. Any caricature of a government official or criticism of the shogun's policies would be disastrous, leading to fines, confiscation of the woodblocks, and even jail time for both the publisher and you. They are also looking for violations of the sumptuary laws, edicts designed to curb luxury and extravagance among the merchant class. Is the kimono you drew too ornate? Are you depicting a lifestyle that is above the station of the common person? They are also moral guardians. Is the print too erotic? Does it challenge the official Confucian social order? The rules are often vague and arbitrarily enforced, making the process a gamble every time. You wait for days, a knot of anxiety in your stomach. This is the great irony of your profession. You create images of the floating world, a world of fleeting pleasures, fashion, and entertainment, but you do so under the watchful eye of a rigid, authoritarian government. One of your friends, an artist named Utamaro, was famously arrested and placed in handcuffs for 50 days for creating a print depicting a historical ruler with his courtesans. The punishment broke his spirit, and he died shortly after. The danger is very real. Finally, the publisher sends for you. Your drawing is back. You examine the paper, your heart pounding, and there it is, a small circular seal stamped onto the design, the kiwame, the seal of approval. Your design has passed. It is deemed acceptable for public consumption. A wave of relief washes over you. The government has given its blessing. Now, the real work can begin. Your beautiful hand-drawn image is about to be handed over to the next craftsman in the assembly line, the carver. And in the process, your original drawing will be completely destroyed. With the censor's seal of approval, your drawing is taken to the workshop of the horishi, the woodblock carver. His studio is quiet, a stark contrast to the publisher's shop. The air smells of cherry wood and oiled paper. The carver is the silent, unsung hero of the Ukiyo-e world. His name will never appear on the finished print. He will receive no public fame. But without his incredible skill, your drawing would remain just a drawing. He is the one who translates your fluid, brush-drawn lines into the unforgiving medium of wood. He examines your drawing, his fingers tracing the lines, already thinking about how he will cut them. He works on blocks of Yamazakura, a type of mountain cherry wood, chosen for its hard, fine grain that can hold a delicate line. He takes your drawing and applies a thin layer of rice paste to the back. He then lays it, face down, onto the perfectly smooth surface of the woodblock. He rubs it gently until it is firmly adhered. Then he carefully applies oil to the paper. The paper becomes translucent, almost transparent, revealing your ink drawing in reverse. Your original artwork is now permanently glued to the block. There is no going back. The carver sits at his low bench, the block held steady. He picks up his first tool, a small sharp knife called a kogatana. This is the moment of truth. With immense precision, he begins to carve the wood along both sides of every single one of your lines. This is the key block, the omohan, which will print the black outlines of the entire design. He must cut with the steely control of a surgeon. A slight tremble of the hand, a moment of inattention, and a line could be severed, ruining the block. As he carves, he is not just cutting the wood. He is peeling away the paper of your drawing, destroying your original work with every movement. Once the outlines are cut, he picks up his chisels and gouges. With these, he clears away the wood in the empty spaces, leaving your lines standing up in high relief. The sound of the mallet tapping the chisel is a soft, rhythmic percussion. It is painstaking, eye-straining work that takes years of apprenticeship to master. He must capture the very spirit of your brushstroke, the tapered end of a line, the subtle flick of a sleeve. He is not just a craftsman, he is a translator, moving your art from one language to another. After many days of intense concentration, the key block is finished. Your drawing is gone, but it has been reborn in the hard, fragrant wood of the cherry block. The completion of the key block is a major milestone, but the carver's most intricate work is yet to come. The publisher has decided that your print will be a Nishiki-e, a brocade picture, a full-color print that will dazzle the eyes of the Edo consumer. This means that for every color in your design, a separate woodblock must be carved. It is a process that requires an almost supernatural level of precision. First, a dozen or so proofs are printed from the finished key block. These black and white prints are sent back to you, the artist. Now, you once again pick up your brushes, but this time with pots of colour. On these proof sheets you carefully paint in the colours exactly as you envision them. This area will be a vibrant red, this one a subtle indigo blue, this part of the kimono a soft pink. You are creating the colour guides for the carver. When you are finished, the proofs are returned to his workshop. Now his real challenge begins. For a print that requires 10 different colours, he must now prepare 10 new cherry wood blocks. He pastes one of your coloured proofs onto each block. On the first block, he carves away everything except the areas that are to be printed red. On the second, he carves away everything except the areas destined to be blue. He repeats this process for every single colour. It is a mind-bendingly complex task. But the true genius of his work lies in ensuring that all these separate blocks will align perfectly when printed. To achieve this, he carves 2 small but crucial registration marks, called kento, into the corner and along the edge of the original key block. He then carves the exact same marks into every single one of the colour blocks, in the exact same position. When the printer lays the paper down, these marks will guide him, ensuring that the red of the lips doesn't end up on the cheek and the blue of the sky doesn't bleed into the hair. It is a job of millimeters. The slightest error in carving the kento on even one block will throw off the entire print, rendering the whole set of blocks useless. The financial loss to the publisher would be immense, and the carver's reputation would be ruined. He works with a quiet, meditative focus, his hands moving with a certainty born of thousands of hours of practice. He is creating a complex three-dimensional puzzle where each piece must fit together perfectly to create a seamless, beautiful whole. His work is invisible, yet it is everywhere. Once the carver has finished his monumental task, the full set of meticulously carved wood blocks, the key block and one for each colour, are delivered to the final artisan in this chain of creation, the shurishi, the printer. His workshop is different from the others. It is immaculately clean, as a single speck of dust or stray wood chip could ruin a print. The room is humid, the paper screens kept closed to maintain a stable environment. The air smells of damp paper and the faint, sweet scent of rice paste, which is mixed with the pigments. The printer is a master of colour, pressure and texture. His is a craft of feel, of intuition. He works at a low printing desk angled to catch the light. Beside him are his tools, pots of brightly coloured water-based pigments made from minerals and plants, a variety of brushes for applying the ink to the blocks, and stacks of soft, absorbent, washi paper, which has been dampened to make it more receptive to the ink. But his most important tool is the barin. It looks like a simple, flat, circular pad, but it is a complex instrument made from a disc of cardboard, a coil of tightly woven bamboo cord, and covered by a bamboo leaf. The thousands of tiny bumps on the coil are what press the paper into the block, and the printer has a variety of barins for different effects. His process is a rhythmic focused dance. He begins with the key block, the black outline. He places it on his desk and applies the black sumi ink to its raised lines with a brush. He works quickly and evenly. Then he takes a single sheet of damp paper. He carefully lowers it onto the block, aligning the corner and edge of the paper precisely against the carved Kento registration marks. Now, he takes his barin. Holding the paper steady with one hand, he rubs the back of the sheet with the barin in a series of swift, circular motions. The pressure he applies is crucial. It must be firm and even to create a solid, crisp black line. He peels the paper off the block. The black outline is now perfectly transferred to the sheet. He sets it aside and repeats the process, creating hundreds of these outline prints. Now for the colours. He cleans the desk and sets down the first colour block, let's say the one for the red of the kimono. He applies the red pigment, which has been mixed with a little rice paste to give it body. He takes one of the black and white prints he just made. Once again, he carefully aligns it to the Kento marks. This is the moment of truth. If the carver did his job correctly, and if the printer aligns the paper perfectly, the red pigment will transfer only to the areas intended for it, fitting seamlessly within the black outlines. He rubs with the barin spray. He lifts the sheet. A patch of vibrant red now blossoms on the paper. He continues this process for every single colour block. Blue for the sash, yellow for a comb in the hair, pink for the cherry blossoms in the background. Each time he must re-ink the block. Each time he must align the same sheet of paper perfectly. With each new layer of colour, the image becomes more complete, more vibrant. He can even create subtle gradients, a technique called bokashi, by applying a wash of pigment to the block and then wiping some of it away before printing, creating a beautiful fade from dark to light blue in the sky. It is a slow, methodical, and incredibly skillful performance. He is not just a machine making copies. He is an artist, painting with woodblocks, bringing your original design into its final glorious form, one colour at a time. After days of meticulous work, the printer has created a large stack of finished prints. Each one has passed through his hands a dozen times or more, once for each colour. They are laid out on racks to dry, the humid air of the studio slowly releasing the moisture from the paper. When they are ready, they are stacked, packaged, and delivered back to the place where it all began, the publisher's shop. And now you see your creation as it was meant to be seen, not as a drawing, but as a finished product, ready for the market. You walk down the bustling street of Nihonbashi and see them. A stall has been set up outside the publisher's storefront, and your prints are on display. They are pinned to a board, fluttering in the breeze, a riot of colour amidst the greys and browns of the wooden city. Your name is on the print as the designer, but so is the publisher's name and seal, usually more prominently displayed. The names of the carver and the printer are nowhere to be found. They will remain anonymous craftsmen. The price is listed on a small sign. A single print costs about 16 months. It is an affordable luxury, the price of a decent bowl of noodles or a ticket to the public bath. You stand back and watch as people pass by. A samurai's wife stops to admire the elegant kimonos. Two young merchants, apprentices themselves, point and laugh, recognizing one of the famous courtesans you depicted. A man buys one to take home as a souvenir of his trip to the capital. This is the world your art lives in. It is not hung in a silent, reverent gallery. It is a piece of popular culture. It is a poster of a celebrity, a fashion plate, a travel memento, an advertisement. It is as much a part of the vibrant, chaotic, and ephemeral, floating world as the kabuki plays and the sumo matches it depicts. People buy them, take them home, perhaps paste them to a screen or a wall. When they get tired of them, or when a newer, more fashionable print comes out, they might be thrown away or used as wrapping paper. They are not precious. They are disposable. They are meant to be enjoyed for a season and then replaced. There's a strange feeling in your chest as you watch this. A mix of pride and a kind of melancholy. You, the carver, the printer, the publisher, you have all worked so hard to create this object of fleeting beauty. And now it has a life of its own, out here on the noisy, messy, wonderful streets of Edo. Your new series of prints is a modest success. The publisher sells a few thousand copies, enough to make a tidy profit and to pay you for your work. You're given another commission, and the cycle begins again. The trends of the floating world shift and change with the seasons. Last year's celebrity actor is this year's forgotten man. The beautiful courtesan you drew so elegantly is replaced by a new favourite. Your prints, once so fashionable, begin to look dated. Soon, they disappear from the stalls, replaced by the latest designs from a rival artist. And what of the woodblocks? After being used to print thousands of copies, the delicate lines of the key block have started to wear down, to lose their sharpness. The publisher might order the carver to recut some of the lines, or he might decide the series has run its course. The expensive cherry wood blocks are a valuable resource. Sometimes they are simply planned down, the surface shaved smooth, erasing your design forever, so that a new image can be carved on top of it. Your masterpiece, a work of such intense collaborative craftsmanship, has been literally wiped away to make room for the next product. You, the artist, the carver, the printer, you're all just cogs in a machine of commerce. You have no idea that your work has a destiny beyond the fickle tastes of the Edo marketplace. You cannot imagine that over in Europe, a new fascination with your country is beginning to stir. You cannot possibly know that some of your cheap, disposable prints will be used as packing material for porcelain being shipped to Paris, and that they will be discovered by a group of artists who will be stunned by their radical compositions, their bold lines, and their flat planes of colour. They will call this new influence Japonism, and it will change the course of Western art forever. You will never know that the names Hokusai, Hiroshige, and Utamaro will one day be spoken with the same reverence as Rembrandt and Michelangelo, and that the prints you helped create for the price of a bowl of noodles will be sold for millions of dollars in auction houses in London and New York, preserved behind climate-controlled glass in the world's greatest museums. You know none of this. You simply pick up your brush, grind your ink, and begin your next drawing. You have a deadline to meet. Hey guys, we've all heard the saying, all roads lead to Rome. And for centuries, that was a literal truth. The Romans built the most sophisticated and durable road network the world had ever seen, a system of stone arteries that pumped legions and laws to the furthest corners of their empire. We picture a noble engineer, elegantly designing these perfect straight roads. But the brutal reality is that Roman roads were a military project built by soldiers on the hostile frontiers of the empire. It was a grueling, dangerous, and back-breaking construction job carried out by a legionary whose shovel was as important as his sword. If you enjoy digging past the surface of history to reveal the sweat, the grit, and the incredible labour that formed the foundations of the ancient world, consider showing your support for the channel. Every like and comment helps us pave the way for new stories. And as we prepare to survey our route, I'd love to know where in the world you're joining this legion of history lovers from. It's always great to see our global community assembled. Alright, it is time to settle in. Find a quiet spot and let the noise of your own world fade away. Let your body relax, let your mind become still, and just focus on the sound of my voice. We are travelling to the cold, damp, and perpetually rebellious northern fringe of the Roman Empire. The year is 125 AD. The Emperor Hadrian rules from Rome, and you are a military engineer, about to impose the unwavering logic of a straight Roman line on a wild and unruly landscape. You stand in the timber-built basilica of the provincial governor in the bustling, muddy military town of Eboracum, what will one day be called York. You are a centurion, a seasoned officer of the 9th Legion, but your specialty is not in commanding men in the heat of battle. You are an architectus, a military engineer. Your hands, though calloused and strong, are more comfortable with a measuring rod than a sword. The governor unrolls a papyrus map and gives you your orders. A new military road, a Via Militaris, is to be built. It will run 50 miles north, from your fort to a new garrison being established in the territory of the Brigantes, a fierce and recently subdued British tribe. This is not a public works project for the betterment of the local populace. This is a strategic necessity. The road will allow legions to march at speed to quell any future uprisings. It will be a permanent, unyielding statement of Roman power. A stone artery of control driven into the heart of a new province. Your task is to survey the route and to oversee its construction. You are to take a century of your best legionaries, men who are as skilled with a pickaxe as they are with a pilum, and you are to build a road that will last for 1,000 years. You salute the governor, a grim sense of purpose settling upon you. Your next campaign will be fought not against men, but against the landscape itself. A few days later, you venture out from the relative safety of the fort. Your first task is to survey the route, and this is not a quiet academic exercise. You are marching into what is still, essentially, hostile territory. Your survey team consists of a dozen legionaries in full armour, their shields up and their hands on their swords, who form a protective screen around you and your specialist equipment. You are the Mensor, the Surveyor, and your tools are simple but incredibly effective. Your most important tool is the Gromer. It is a simple cross-shaped device, mounted on a pole, with plumb lines hanging from the end of each of the 4 arms. By aligning the plumb lines, you can lay out a perfect right angle, and by sighting along them to a series of tall rods carried by your assistants, you can project a perfectly straight line across any terrain. The Roman obsession with straight roads is not just an aesthetic choice, it is a military one. A straight road is the fastest road. It is the most efficient way to move an army. You begin your work. You set up the Gromer and you peer along its arms, your eye aligning the strings. You shout commands to your assistants, who move through the rough, overgrown landscape, planting their red and white striped sighting poles according to your directions. You are drawing a line in the wilderness, a line that will become the spine of Roman authority. The line does not care for the obstacles in its path. It passes through dense ancient forests. It crosses boggy marshes. It goes straight up steep hills. Your job is not to find the easiest path. Your job is to find the straightest. The problem of how to actually build a road over these obstacles will come later. For now, you are the instrument of pure geometric will, imposing the unwavering logic of Rome on a land that has only ever known the winding paths of animals and tribesmen. With the route surveyed and marked, the real work begins. An entire cohort of the Legion, some 500 men, marches out from the fort. They are not marching for war. They are your construction crew. The Roman legionary is one of the most versatile and effective human tools ever devised. He is a professional soldier, yes, but he is also a lumberjack, a stonemason, a carpenter, and a dirt hauler. For every day a legionary spent fighting, he might have spent a month on construction projects like this. The first task is to clear the way. The line you have so carefully surveyed runs directly through a dense ancient oak forest. And so, the forest must go. The legionaries trade their swords for axes. The sound of 500 axes biting into wood echoes through the valley. It is a sound of relentless, organized destruction. The great trees, which have stood for centuries, are felled with a brutal efficiency. The legionaries work in disciplined teams, their movements economical, their endurance seemingly limitless. What was once a dark, primeval forest is, in a matter of weeks, transformed into a wide, ugly scar of raw earth and tree stumps. The timber is stripped, stacked, and saved for building bridges and fortified camps. The stumps are dug out and burned. The Legion is not just clearing a path for a road, it is clearing the land of its wildness. It is an act of domination, a taming of the landscape. You, the engineer, are the agent of this transformation. You are not just building a road, you are erasing the world that was here before, and preparing the ground for the world of Rome. With the route cleared and levelled, the real engineering begins. A Roman road is not just a simple layer of paving stones on the ground. It is a deep, complex, and incredibly durable structure, built in layers, like a great stone sandwich. And the first step is to dig. The legionaries once again trade their tools, this time picking up the dolabra, a versatile military pickaxe, and shovels. They begin to dig the great foundation trench, the fossa. They work with a tireless, methodical rhythm, the dirt and rock being carried away in wicker baskets called qualis. The trench is typically about 3 feet deep, and as wide as the finished road will be. This is back-breaking, monotonous work, but it is done with the same discipline and efficiency as a battle drill. The centurions move along the line, ensuring the work is done to the precise specifications you have laid out. There is no room for shoddy workmanship. This road must be capable of bearing the weight of an entire legion on the march, and it must last for centuries. While one group digs, another is tasked with preparing the materials that will fill this great trench. This means quarrying stone from a nearby hillside and crushing it into rubble and gravel of various sizes. It is a loud, dusty and endless process, all done by hand with heavy stone hammers. The sheer quantity of material required is staggering. For every mile of road, thousands of tons of stone, gravel and sand must be quarried, crushed and transported to the site. It is a logistical nightmare, but the Roman army is a master of logistics. You are not just building a road, you are managing a massive industrial operation in the middle of a hostile wilderness. You are a project manager, a foreman, and a military commander, all rolled into one. And the foundation of your project is this great empty ditch, a wound in the earth that you are about to fill with the stuff of empire. With the great fossa excavated, the process of building the road upwards begins. You oversee the crews as they lay down the first layer, the foundation, which is known as the stachman. This consists of large, flat stones fitted together as tightly as possible to create a stable, solid base. Over this, a layer of sand or earth is packed down to fill any gaps. The goal is to create a foundation that will not shift or sink into the soft British soil. Next comes the rudus. This is a thick layer of smaller stones, often mixed with broken tiles or bricks, and bound together with a rough but incredibly strong cement made from lime and sand. This is the structural core of the road, a primitive but highly effective form of concrete that will harden into a single, monolithic slab. The legionaries pack this layer down with heavy wooden tampers, their rhythmic grunting work ensuring the layer is dense and free of air pockets. Above the rudus is the nucleus or kernel of the road. This is a finer layer of coarse gravel, sand and cement, which is smoothed and compacted to create a firm but slightly flexible base for the final surface. Each of these layers is carefully chosen and expertly laid. The entire structure, from the foundation to the surface, is designed to be strong, stable, and, crucially, porous enough to allow for drainage. A road that holds water is a road that will quickly be destroyed by frost and rain. It is a slow, methodical, and incredibly labour-intensive process. You move along the line, your trained engineer's eye checking the depth and consistency of each layer. It is this deep, layered construction that is the secret to the Roman road's legendary longevity. You are not just building a road for the current campaign. You are building a road for your children's children's children. You are building for eternity. The final and most iconic layer of the road is the surface itself, the summa crusta, or top crust. This is the part of the road that will bear the brunt of the endless traffic of marching legions, heavy supply carts, and official messengers. For this, you need the most skilled of your legionary craftsmen, the stonemasons. The surface is to be paved with large, polygonal flagstones of hard-wearing rock, like granite or basalt, quarried and shaped specifically for this purpose. Fitting these stones is like assembling a giant, incredibly heavy jigsaw puzzle. Each stone is shaped to fit snugly against its neighbours, leaving almost no gaps between them. The masons use their hammers and chisels with a surprising delicacy, tapping and shaping the great stones until the fit is perfect. The finished surface is not flat. You have designed the road to have a slight camber, meaning it is higher in the middle, and gently slopes down to the sides. It is a simple but brilliant innovation that ensures rainwater will run off the surface immediately. And where does the water go? Into the deep drainage ditches that you have ordered to be dug along both sides of the road. These ditches are as much a part of the road's engineering as the paving stones themselves. They keep the road's foundations dry and stable, preventing the ground from turning into a muddy quagmire. The result of all this labour is a masterpiece of practical engineering. A wide, durable, all-weather highway, a permanent feature of the landscape that will still be visible, and in some cases still usable, 2,000 years in the future. This entire massive construction project is taking place in a newly conquered and still very hostile territory. The local tribes, the Brigantes, are not happy about this permanent stone scar of Roman power being driven through their ancestral lands. The threat of attack is constant and real. A small work party that strays too far from the main group could easily be ambushed and massacred. And so, every single evening, your construction crew transforms back into a military unit. The Roman legion never, ever makes camp in the open. The last few hours of every single day are dedicated to one of the most remarkable feats of their military genius, the construction of a fortified marching camp. It is a non-negotiable part of the daily routine. As the sun begins to dip, the signal is given. The road building stops, and the camp building begins. And it is a spectacle of speed, discipline, and efficiency. A section of land is marked out in a perfect rectangle. One half of the cohort stands guard, their shields locked, their spears ready, facing outwards into the darkening woods. The other half of the cohort takes up their shovels. In a matter of a few hours, they dig a deep V-shaped ditch around the entire perimeter of the camp. The earth from the ditch is thrown inwards to create a high rampart, or agger. On top of this rampart, they drive a line of sharpened wooden stakes, the sudes, that each man carries with him as part of his standard pack. Within this newly created fortress, a city of leather tents is erected in a perfect pre-planned grid. There are designated streets, a headquarters, and specific areas for each sentry. By the time darkness falls, your entire force is safe inside a fully functional, easily defensible fort. The next morning, you will pack up the tents, dismantle the camp, and resume your road building. And that evening, you will build another, identical fort a few miles further down the line. It is an act of incredible, repetitive labour, but it is what keeps you alive on the dangerous frontiers of the Empire. Your ruthlessly straight line has brought you to your greatest challenge yet. A wide, deep and fast-flowing river cuts across your surveyed path. The local Britons cross it at a shallow ford a few miles downstream, but that would require a deviation in your road. And you do not do deviations. The Roman road does not go around obstacles. It goes through them. You will not build a ford. You will build a bridge. And it will be a bridge designed to last for centuries. The construction of a Roman stone pier bridge is the ultimate expression of your engineering prowess. It is a massive undertaking. First, you must create the foundations for the piers. You do this by building cofferdams. Your legionaries drive a double-walled circular stockade of massive iron-tipped wooden piles deep into the riverbed. They then pack the space between the two walls with clay to make it watertight. Then, the real, grueling work begins. The water is bailed out from the centre of the cofferdam, creating a dry, workable space on the riverbed. Down in these dark, muddy and dangerous pits, your stonemasons begin to build the stone piers, layer by layer, up from the bedrock itself. Once the piers are built to the correct height, the cofferdams are removed. Now you must connect them. A great timber scaffolding is erected between the piers. On top of this, your carpenters build a series of wooden arches. These arches are the temporary framework over which the stone arch of the bridge will be built. The masons then begin the delicate and dangerous work of laying the wedge-shaped stones, the voussoirs, of the arch, working from both piers towards the centre. The final central stone, the keystone, is carefully lowered into place. Once it is set, the entire arch becomes self-supporting, a structure of incredible strength. The wooden framework is removed, and the process is repeated for the next span. It is a slow, brilliant, and incredibly dangerous process, but when it is finished, you have not just crossed a river, you have conquered it. After nearly a year of relentless disciplined labour, the road is complete. You stand on a hilltop and look back at your creation. It is a stark, grey and brutally straight line, cutting a path of Roman order through the wild, green and winding landscape of Britain. It is a scar of civilization. It is beautiful, not in a natural way, but in its absolute, uncompromising logic. It is a physical manifestation of the Roman mind. Soon, this road will be alive with the business of empire. The iron-shod sandals of marching legions will ring out on its paving stones. The heavy, iron-rimmed wheels of supply carts will rumble along its surface. Imperial messengers will gallop from fort to fort, carrying the decrees of Rome. And in the wake of the soldiers and the bureaucrats, the merchants and the settlers will come, bringing with them the language, the laws, and the gods of your civilization. You are not just a centurion. You are not just an engineer. You are an agent of empire, a pioneer. You have not just built a road. You have planted a seed of Roman identity in this remote and hostile land. A seed that will grow and flourish for the next 300 years. Your work is done. You will move on to the next frontier, the next river to be bridged, the next wilderness to be tamed. The great roads of the Roman Empire were its arteries, the vast circulatory system that allowed its legions, its trade, and its ideas to move with an efficiency the world had never seen. They were not built for the comfort of the traveller. They were forged by the hands of soldiers for the purpose of conquest and control. The brutal reality of these magnificent structures is that every single mile was a testament to the back-breaking labour of the legionary, a man who was both a soldier and a construction worker. The roads were a permanent, unyielding declaration of Roman power, a warning that no matter how remote or how wild the land, the straight, logical and unbending line of Roman authority could and would eventually reach it.